Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Good stories can be unpredictable, which keeps people listening. Emotion and intrigue are what good stories are all about. When a story is predictable, we normally turn off, but a good, unpredictable story attracts our complete attention. When interacting in the virtual world, you can also make subtle changes in tone, movement, and content to enhance engagement and trust from your audience. Passion and enthusiasm will allow your audience to lock in memorable experiences for maximum impact. British-born Peter Hopwood travels the globe physically and virtually, supporting executives, leaders, founders, and teams to craft and deliver engaging stories, increasing their leadership presence and persuasive connection with maximum impact. Peter's coaching skills strengthen CEOs, leaders, and TEDx speakers' storytelling skills and presence on the stage or virtually. His professional range covers brand stories, CEO conference talks, to virtual selling techniques. Peter's 15-year experience helps bring more value every time you speak. With the extensive international experience of working alongside founders and global accelerators in Europe and the MENA region, Peter helps to transform and strengthen pitches that connect, engage, and get listeners to take action. As a global corporate events MC, hosting 500 plus events, Peter shaped some of the strongest tech stages on the planet, including MWC Europe, Asia, US, GTEx Dubai, and JEC World. More recently involved in challenging, demanding hybrid projects, creating engaging and intriguing worldwide virtual experiences. Peter Hopwood is also the chair of the Communication Committee of the World Innovation and Change Management Institute. Peter has also worked in 41 countries physically and lived in 7, now based in Split, Croatia. Let's welcome Peter Hopwood to the Follow the Brand podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. I want to welcome everybody to the latest episode on Follow the Brand. You will not, I always say this, you won't believe we got a special guest, but today we got somebody who's an international speaker. He has been acknowledged on TEDx. He's been sought after as a speaker on many, many different platforms. And I truly believe because he has a story. And he knows how to articulate this story in a way that draws interest and intrigue and drama at a level that makes him an expert in his field. So I want to bring up Peter Hopwood, all the way from Croatia, to tell us a little bit about what he's doing and how that relates to career development. So Peter, take it away.
Man, that is, I've got to say, what an intro. What an intro you just gave me. The drama, the intrigue, the story. I love it. In fact, I have to correct you, right? So I'm in Croatia. So I am coming from, like, physically, virtually, whatever you want to call it, to you, everyone right now from Croatia, because I live here, but I'm actually from London. So I'm a Brit in Croatia. because sometimes people look at my profile, they see my face, they think I'm Croat because I'm in Croatia, but in fact, no, I'm from London. So, but anyway, thanks for that intro. Yeah, it's quite a difficult question to answer very quickly, but it's essentially, I help people to find their stories, to find the right things to say at the right moment. Right. So whether it be people standing on stages in front of a TEDx audience and they've got their 5 minutes, 15 minutes of fame as a TEDx speaker, or a CEO who has to speak in front of his teams, his maybe a conference on behalf of his company, or it might just be a team leader who has a daily meeting and just needs to really beef up the confidence and really find stories of ways to attract even more attention and impact in what they say. So as a speaker coach, that's essentially what I do. In terms of career development, stories, as we know, if we tell them right, even if we don't tell a good story, it still actually usually manages to get people's attention. Stories will always manage to bring people in. There's so many great things about stories. They're unpredictable. We don't know where they're going. So things that are predictable, we often turn off, right? So think about a film you've seen before. You know what's going to happen. You don't want to see it again. Okay, music is slightly different because it gives us this feeling. We can listen to music all the time, and that's okay. But anything usually which is predictable in anything we do doesn't always attract new attention. Something which is unpredictable, like we don't know what's going to happen. Like right now on this podcast, we don't really know what's going to unfold in this conversation. I kind of know what I'm going to say. You kind of know I'm sure you know the questions you're going to ask, but we don't know how this is going to unfold exactly. And the listeners listening to this, you're not quite sure how this is going to unfold, but you want value and you want something good from it, right? That's what we want as well. So we've all got the same goal. It's unpredictable, which keeps people listening. So stories are often reliable as well, because we kind of feel that a story is true, don't we? If I say to you like right now, so let me just explain a little bit about what happened to me yesterday morning. So I was walking down the street. I can then continue with that. In your brain, probably most people will listen to that and feel it's true. There's no reason for us to lie. There's no reason for me to lie. It could be false. It could be completely false. But when we start telling a story, usually we feel it's connected to the truth, unless we already have a bias about the person saying it. Maybe a politician, maybe a president, past president, for example, or maybe somebody that has just got a reputation for not telling the truth, right? So we think they're true. So there are so many great things about stories. Emotion is what a story is all about. So stories come in all shapes and sizes. For example, gossip, that's story, right? You sit with your friend, two people together having coffee, telling each other about what's been happening in their lives. Those are stories. A celebrity magazine, you open it up, you see a celebrity having an affair with someone else. That's a story. That's a story because we're intrigued about this emotion, about doing something, that the emotions connected with having an affair, for example. Even sports. Sport is so intriguing, isn't it? It's so engaging. If you think about it, that's a story as well, because it's unpredictable. We don't know where it's going. There's emotion involved. And so let's say a football game or a soccer game here in Europe, it's a story. So stories are, they're here all the time. We've all got them. We've all got things that have happened to us, emotions that we felt, emotions that other people have felt. And so the trick is really, in terms of what I do, helping people to really find the right story or stories to help them share their messages in front of people that, they're hoping to get the right outcome from. Yeah. So essentially that's it. And we can do that whoever we are, wherever we are. All right. Even if we've got no experience, we can still do that. Even if we're rich, we can do that. If we're poor, we can do that. So it doesn't. The great thing about stories is they're everywhere, and I think the quicker we start to learn how to use them or start to tell them in the right way, the stories that are going to help us connect more, this can only help us.
Well,
This
I
can
tell you
only
what,
help
Peter,
us.
is
Yeah, would you
that
agree?
what you're talking about, and I remember just my own story, right, in telling
Mm.
stories, and when I had to become the president of an association, I had to be the leader, and I had to get out and do that thing they call public speaking. And public speaking can be very, very intimidating. And if you aren't prepared, it could be one of those moments that you'd rather, not get out of bed kind of thing, right? We'll just put it like that. I think they say that there's two of the greatest fears in life. One is dying, the other is public speaking. I think public speaking won. So you are a master of public speaking. And I want to know, in your story, how did you begin that career? How did you find that confidence? What turned you on to becoming a public speaker in the first place?
I mean, that's a great question, and to find the answer to that, it's quite simple. I mean, when I was a young man, growing up, I not too much confidence, not really knowing where I'm going to fit in society, in life, in terms of career, in terms of making money. I was, just sort of waddling along, just trying to, next place I go to. Because early days so I went to art college. My studies were in graphic design. So drawing every day, pretty much with a pencil or a pen and colors, which we don't do much nowadays. Then when I was studying, there weren't many computers at all. Well, hardly any, I think. So we did it the old school way, which was great because it gives you this chance to really observe. Learning to draw is learning to see, right? So the more you observe, the more you just jot down on paper what you see. The better you see, the more you can put down on paper. So the gaps between, if I'm drawing, I don't know, a life drawing, it's all about the lines. It's all about the spaces between those lines. It's all about the curves, the shapes. It's all just what you see. So I was really observant. So thinking about it right now, I'm really observant, really looking. I'm really, what do those lines mean? And what do those shapes mean in comparison to other shapes? And I suppose this is something that has kind of been with me all throughout my career in terms of helping people to speak better. The perception we have of somebody when they're speaking up on stage or on TV or on camera, we are listeners and we have the right to judge. So we judge. So people now listening to this podcast, they will judge. They will judge me by my voice and what I'm saying. They'll judge you, Grant, by what you're saying and what you've said in the past. They'll judge you by what you look like. They'll judge me by what I look like. They'll judge me by my hairstyle. They'll judge you in the podcast by those fantastic graphics that you have every time you share them out on social media. So people are judging us constantly. We can't stop that. We have to accept that. But what we can do is really trying to be really aware of the things we say, how we say them, how we move, the tone of the things we're saying, the tone of the things we don't say. So the things we don't say are just important as the things we do. It's really interesting. So I think, as I kind of went through my career, living in different countries, doing lots of different jobs, working for Disney in Paris, studying French in the south of France, working for a tour operator across many countries, Portugal, Malta, Budapest, training in Budapest. So all of these jobs helping me to be really aware of my messages, because a lot of what I was doing was selling myself and selling services. And I learned the hard way. When things weren't going well, if I didn't manage to sell, I didn't get any money at the end of the month. But if I changed something in what I was saying, if I checked, because most of the time it was the same content, same presentations all the time. It didn't change. The only thing that changed was the people listening to those messages and how I felt about myself, how I felt about the content. Maybe then I would change something in the way I say something. Maybe I would pause there and pause there at the end, and that would give a different impact. So I realized early on, you can change very small, subtle things, and the energy that you bring into it, people feel. So how you feel about things, people will feel. How you, Grant, feel about your podcast, and we heard that we hear it every time you start the podcast. We can hear that. We can hear that we hear that you enjoy yourself. We can hear that you're proud of what you're doing. We hear that you enjoy helping people to listen to these episodes. And that comes through. And that can only be appealing. Now, here's the thing with passion and enthusiasm, we don't have to agree with the content. So many people could say, I don't like me. They can say, I don't like Peter Hopwood. I don't like what he's saying. I don't agree with what he's saying. And that's fine. That's fine. But they can't take away the passion and the enthusiasm and the love of what I'm doing, how I enjoy it, you as well. And that's attractive. That's really appealing. So I get people in. So passion and enthusiasm will always get people in, will always attract. But then it's really about the content which will keep people, or not. So throughout my career, presenting, a flair for presenting, really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the ways of changing body language, changing my perception of what I was saying, bringing in stories, humor as well, now and then, hopefully. Many times I thought things were funny. I think that's one of the great things. I am proud of the fact that there are many things that I find extremely funny that I say, but I know that not everybody would find them funny, but that doesn't matter because it makes me laugh inside. And if it makes you laugh inside, that's a good thing.
No, Peter, what you just said there is so important because humor as an emotion, no matter how you're feeling, the melancholy mood you may have been in, humor can change the whole dynamic of your day, of your moment, of your life, depending on how it's projected. And humor is worldwide. It's everywhere. One of the things I said to you when we first started talking, even right before this podcast, I said, Peter, you are the pitch man's pitch man. I mean, you exude. I mean, every salesperson, I have a ton of people that are in sales in my network. And they admire me to a certain degree. Like, man, I love what you're doing with the podcast. I love how you're packaging some things together and you're putting some knowledge and information out there for a lot of different people. I said, yeah, well, you've got to learn how to do your pitch. And fine, but you have to attach it to the passion. You can't fake it. If you don't believe in something, as you just said, some of the tonal quality won't be there. The body language won't be there. The difference between something that you truly believe and truly like, whether like you said, you may not even like that product. The person may not even like that particular product, but they like you.
Yeah. Sell
yourself first is a thing that I learned a long time ago. So in your world, you've really propelled your career, I think, exponentially. And how has your brand helped you to do that?
Listen, Grant. It's two things. I think perception of the perception I had of who I am, right, and the perception of others of what they think I am. Now, I say that it sounds like they're two very different things, right? Hopefully they're not. I don't want them to be two different things. So So it's the perception of, I'll start with myself. So my career was developing, moving into different areas, but all connected with communication, all connected with presenting, using verbal signals, verbal messages, non-verbal messages as well. And the more I was helping people to tell their stories and to pitch startups, accelerator programs, really helping them to get to where they want to be in terms of perception, I realized, this is, this is what I'm doing. And the more I would then, wrap myself up in this idea that I'm a kind of pitch coach, speaker coach, storytelling coach, I wouldn't say I believed it more, because I believed it from the beginning, but it just kind of crystallizes what I'm doing. Other people would then see that and hear that, and then the more I would post on social media, the more companies that would approach me and say, listen, I've heard this podcast, for example, I've seen you on this, I've seen you on social media, or a friend of mine, a colleague of mine was training with you. Things starting to grow even further. So, but that all stems from the belief. So if I go back years ago, different countries, I didn't have anything. I couldn't, if I was to ask myself, okay, Peter, who are you and what do you do? I would probably say, oh, these are the places I've worked in. These are the companies I've worked for. And these are the countries I've lived in. So, but that's not a brand. That's not a brand. The brand is, okay, who are you, Peter, and what you do? What do you do? Well, like I say now, I'm a storytelling coach, pitch coach, and I help people to really find and tell their stories in the right way. That's essentially what I'm doing. So instead of maybe the companies or the titles, think more about what you're doing. Think about the big picture, how I'm helping. So if I ask you, what with this podcast, not anything else, just with this podcast. So tell us about the podcast and what do you do, Grant? How would you describe this in 2 sentences?
In 2 sentences, I am bringing relevant content to people that are starting out in their businesses or in established small to mid-sized businesses to help them tell their story through personal branding, career development, business development, and financial empowerment.
There you go. So what that does, that crystallizes and makes it really clear what you do, how you help people, and who for. And that's it. That's it. So getting to that stage, if you can get to that stage, then that's a good thing. So instead of kind of, in the past, I was kind of just jumping around and just all these different jobs and different titles. When I started to think about it, well, hey, this is what I do. This is what I really enjoy, and this is what I seem to be good at it because it's going really well. I crystallized myself in that way, and then if you do that yourself, and then you believe that yourself, others have no choice but to accept that. They may not agree that you're good at your job. They may not buy into you. They may not hire you. Does that matter? No. What matters is this is what you do. This is how you help people. If it's going well, naturally you stay with that. I've stayed with that. That's what I do. I enjoy it. I love what I do, and it's going in the right direction.
So let me ask you this, Peter. And I've seen a lot of different, I would say, speakers that are in the field, and they're going all over the place. And they hit this wall with COVID because before they were getting booked, they're going on stage, they're going to different conferences, they're doing a lot of things in large auditoriums, there's thousands of people. And now, because of COVID, that's all stopped. How have you pivoted and maintained your success during this COVID outbreak?
Yeah, I mean, when it all hit, a lot of my work was, well, actually, all of my coaching was physical. So it meant leaving the city I live in right now, Split, in the south of Croatia, flying on a plane to mainly Europe, sometimes further afield. Same with events, conferences. summits globally, again, flying out to different places. Obviously, COVID hit, couldn't fly out anywhere. There weren't any planes flying anywhere. And I was, I was kind of just, what I did wrongly. I kind of just stayed put for, I don't know, it must have been at least 2 months, fingers crossed, hoping this will go away, hoping this is a bad dream. I could just wake up and we'll be okay. And accept that 2 months of my life of revenue had just disappeared. But then, I realized obviously it's not going away. And then the coaching in terms of public speaking, in terms of sharing our messages. Where do we have to share our messages? Here in this box, in this virtual box. Now, here in this virtual box, there are many things that are the same as outside the box, right? On stage or in person, in terms of getting your messages across, in terms of storytelling, in terms of a voice, in terms of what people hear, the perception of you. But there are also many things that are different online. You have to think about other things that are just relevant for online, like time. Time, for example, in the real world is important. Everybody's time is valuable. We all get that. But online, when you're speaking or when you're sharing messages online, you have to be even more concise. You have to share your messages with more impact quicker, because people's time attention online can go very, very quickly, because all it is a finger that clicks on one of the keys and you're gone. Think about YouTube. Anything that's on a screen is designed to keep your attention, right? So think about YouTube, think about Netflix, a film, a movie series, even a mobile phone, when games on a mobile phone, everything, all a feed on social media, that's all designed to grab your attention. And now we have to do the same thing when we're speaking. So essentially what I started to do, I started to help people, because people were doing it every single day. They still are. Virtual exchanges, getting really good at Zoom, getting really good at building this trust, because that's the thing that's really difficult, isn't it? Most people find that difficult. We all found it difficult at the beginning. I did as well. As time grew, I got better at it. And then I started to help other people do the same. So this trust, this connection, this standing out from the crowd on Zoom, on virtual exchanges, I kind of pivoted towards that. And I think during 2020, I would say 80% of my work was all about helping companies, teams, leaders to get this connection better, using simple techniques like using your body language, using your hands, using the space around you, standing up, looking into the camera, using your voice in a way that's going to get people's attention, right? Be animated, be more animated than what you would usually be. Because most people, again, when we do something that we've done a long time, our brain tells us we're good at it, right?
Yeah.
So think about anything. I don't know. If you, just thinking, whatever you do, a task or activity that you've been doing a long time, we kind of fool ourselves to think we're good at it. And that's a false, because it's actually false confidence. It gives us confidence that we're good at it. But in fact, with virtual exchanges, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, most of us are okay. Most of us are kind of accepting where we are. But if we had a choice, if we had a real choice of actually, if we could actually beef it up and get better connection with those intro calls, get better trust with potential clients, we'd all want to do that. So essentially I moved to that, help other people do that. And it's been flourishing ever since.
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star Business and Personal Branding Company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand.
And now the events are starting to come back. Fortunately, in this part of the world, not so much in Europe, because there's Omicron now, and that's kind of like things are kind of still up and down. Traveling, a lot less travel anyway for everybody. UAE, Middle East, things are going really well there. I'm not quite sure what it's like in the US, but things are starting to change, more events. So at the moment, it's helping people to really be good communicators, good building up that trust and sharing their stories online in a virtual setting.
Well, I tell you, Peter, in the U.S., we're going through the same thing as far as Omicron, this up, down. Everybody's like, all right, we can go outside and play. Now we got to go back inside. So you always got to like wonder when they're going to get this happening. However, what we have found is that we've learned to accept this dual reality, this augmented reality of the physical world and the digital world. How do we utilize them together? Because now, as you stated earlier, now you've got amazing content that you probably would have never been able to create over the last 2 years. Now you can repurpose them and even showcase your expertise even more to a larger audience. For instance, I probably would have never have been able to meet you because we're in two different worlds, even though we connected through LinkedIn, but coming together, actively searching and looking more online and digital, we would never probably have done that as much in the past. So now you've got this, what I call velocity of content that you can now repurpose, right? So for instance, for me, if I'm starting to look at like, all right, I need to go out either whether it's going to be on stage or just a general meeting, I can now position myself to present good content to the person that I'm going to meet to create that perception. So they don't have to fill in the blanks. Here is Grant. This is what I'm about. Here's my story. And I can tell it in very short segments. I can get the 2-minute look, the 5-minute, the 10-minute, whatever it might be. So then when I do appear in the flesh, man, what an intro I've already created for myself. And what I've seen just in listening to you and seeing you, because I have the advantage of seeing you on video, is that you're very, very good with your hands. You're very, very good with your expressions. Now, did you go to Toastmasters training or some other kind of training? Is that natural? How does that happen?
No. Well, natural. It's I'm really conscious. So here in this, so in front of the camera, talking to you. Unfortunately, our listeners can't see it, but essentially, I've trained myself. Whenever I'm in this position, which I'm in this position a lot, which we all are, we've all got our Zoom spot, haven't we, in our homes or under the cupboards or wherever it is, under the stairs, and we're comfortable with that spot, right? And it's a real comfortable spot. So wherever you are, I'm sure you're really comfortable there, right? So this is my spot, and so I know that if I show my hands and I use my hands in a certain way, gesturing, using them as illustrators, let's say, illustrating a point, or using them as kind of batons to kind of to not enforce a point, but to just enhance the point even more. When you listen to me, when you look at me, you're going to be more engaged and you're going to remember certain points better because I've used my hands. Now here we can, if I was meeting you face to face, I wouldn't use my hands as much, not half as much. Right? But here we can use our hands a lot and we can bring them up. So they're up here, I'm standing up and I actually bring them up just below my shoulders. There's almost like a line where my chest, sort of middle part of my top part of my chest. And that line there is where everything is happening with my hands. and I'm consciously letting you see what I'm doing with them, and that helps you emotionally to hopefully connect. Hopefully, I'm saying it. Hopefully, science says it does. I don't know whether it is, Grant. Maybe you're just looking at the camera and blurred-eyed and can't wait to get rid of me. I don't know. But the thing is, using hands and letting people and being animated. So I'm not, I think you'll agree with me, I'm not kind of jumping up and down, but I am moving, constantly moving. There's something moving constantly. There's
Well, I'm
something
going to
that's
tell you, Peter, that we're
keeping your
going to
attention.
repurpose this on YouTube and create a video, because what I'm seeing, and I want the audience to see, is that you've got great lighting, fantastic lighting. Your camera placement is wonderful. You've got scenery behind you that's pleasant and inviting.
Now, when you say that, some people, because if you said that to me, the scenery behind you is pleasant, I will be thinking automatically of a beach, or I'll be thinking of, like, palm trees, or maybe sunshine. So just to let your listeners know, it's none of that. I'm actually in my apartment, in a corner of my apartment with a white wall, with just with a little light and a lamp and there's a few things on there that you're right. It's altogether, it's pleasant.
Without question. And this has been a pleasant conversation. And I always want to give my audience I say I unplug. Now, first of all, Peter didn't have any of these questions. So he's been unplugged. He didn't know what I was going to ask him at all. And I like that, because it keeps people in suspense and it keeps the conversation authentic. And I like that. And now
It actually goes back to the thing I said earlier on, unpredictability.
Yeah.
So for me, it's intriguing because I have to listen to you. I have to listen to these questions to process them and then to give an answer. And I'm intrigued because I don't know what's happening. So if I imagine I knew all these questions, my level of intrigue will be a lot lower, and that probably would come through my voice, how I'm reacting, and people would feel that, right? So you're right, absolutely. When people don't know stuff, if it's unpredictable, it's a good thing, right?
No, I've had it go both ways depending on the guest. Some guests, they just want a couple of questions just to guide the conversation, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it really depends on the level of the person that I'm dealing with, the comfort zone, and kind of where we're going to go, what's going to happen. And some people know, some people don't. And it's very, very good, because I think when we look at this from a career development standpoint, everybody is utilizing some kind of video conference, some kind of digital tool today. And it's really about communication. How do you communicate effectively? If you're going to develop your career and move it to the next level, how are you communicating? And are you comfortable communicating in ways that you were not comfortable? You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So I want you, if you don't mind, a little bit of what you do, a little bit of that secret sauce. Talk to my audience. My audience is composed of a lot of healthcare executives, information technology professionals, entrepreneurs, and just individuals that are very, very interested in what we're doing at Follow the Brand. So I'm going to give the mic to you. Give them a lesson that you think they could take home and utilize in their lives.
Okay, let me just think about that right now. I'm thinking, as you were saying that, processing that, I kind of, the things that are popping up in my mind were very simply awareness, right? The more you're aware of what other people, or get closer to what other people see, hear, and feel, that's going to help you realize where you are on that scale, whether you're good, whether you're not so great, or maybe you're doing really well, right? Because we've all got this distorted, it can be a distorted perception of things. So as I said at the beginning, it was all about my brand, thinking about the perception I had of myself and the perception of others, how they saw me, and getting those two as close as together as possible, right? So being aware of your voice, being aware of what you look like when you're speaking on Zoom, let's say, being aware of the tone that you usually share at your meetings, right? Being aware of how people feel when you share a keynote or a speech or a couple of minutes at a meeting or on a webinar. So the more aware you are, the better. Now, you may not hear stuff that you like. You may hear really strong feedback that is high on criticism, but that's good. That's all good. So I've gone through that as well. I've heard lots of things from lots of people. Some people, it was credible feedback. Some of the feedback was not credible, and that's a whole nother podcast, isn't it? About credible feedback, who to listen to. The people that really give you honest feedback. Do you really need to listen to that feedback? Or is it actually feedback that's going to help you take that step further? So going back to the answer to the question, really, thinking about being aware has really helped me to step further throughout my career at every stage, I think. Right. And we often, when we're younger, we don't listen to that. We think we're right. We think we know everything, and we think it's criticism. We actually think it's, we don't, criticism, negative feedback, we don't often want to hear it. But you need to hear everything, and then decide what you're going to listen to. But know that you're not perfect, and that's a good thing. Knowing that you have weaknesses, and we all do, accepting them, and then, I'm going to do better next time. I want to do better than myself next time. I can do better. So just thinking about that and being aware in anything we're doing, right? Anything that we do, tasks, work, relationships, maybe. Being aware or getting closer to the perception that others have of you can only be a good thing. Or understanding it. You don't have to be it. You don't have to, but if there's a big gap, you need to think about, how am I going to close that gap? How am I going to get closer to the kind of true perception of who I am, right? So it's quite a deep answer, but hopefully somewhere in there, listeners will navigate an answer for themselves.
It's room for contemplation. Take something that, deep inside, take a good look at yourself. I gave some honest feedback to people I was working with, some of my clients. I said, one of the things that you could do, I get this chance to do it all the time, record yourself on Zoom. Just record yourself on Zoom. Take a look at yourself. Listen to yourself. A lot of times people, I produced a podcast, you get this experience, Peter, and then they listen to it like, wow, I didn't know I sounded like that. Because you listen to yourself from the inside of your head, inside of your ears, not on the other side.
Most of us actually haven't actually listened to ourselves, listened to our voice. Most people haven't, because they don't want to. And when they do hear it, they hear something different. Because often, actually, when we speak, the tone that comes out, right, is actually often higher than what it actually is, right? So in our heads, when we speak, because we've got all of this around our face and around the ears, by the time the sound gets to our ears, together with all the flesh that we have around our mouths, essentially, scientifically, it's a deeper, lower tone. But what people hear, so when I'm sharing out my voice now, what people hear is slightly higher than what we hear. It's so interesting and so intriguing.
Subtleties.
Yeah. But with the mic, the thing is though, with a microphone, like I've got an earpiece right now, you have that headset on as well. That is actually really close to that's actually as close as you can get to the real sound, because it comes back. There's no so if I take them off, if I took this off, you took that off as well.
Yeah.
What I hear from you is different to what you hear from yourself.
Wow, man. You just brought something up. Like, that's what happens. Anytime you take the
microphone off, or you take the earphones out, and you see there's a difference in sound quality, but that's also a difference in how you perceive the sound or
Yeah.
the
So
intelligence
your
that's coming
sound
to
through
you.
the microphone, is pretty much exactly what people are hearing, right? Because you can hear it exactly as well, and that's a good thing, right?
Right.
And if you noticed, well, I do it all the time. My voice is slightly deeper, so it's where the air is coming from. So okay, very quickly, the air's coming in and it comes down here, and then it comes from below and it comes out, and I'm still projecting my voice because I'm getting enough air coming in, and it's coming from down here. Now, if I change to sharing to letting out the kind of projection, the voice from just below my chin, around my neck, which is where most of us speak, there's a different tone. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, let me
Yeah.
just think about that, and I'll do it right now. So now what I'm doing, I'm talking from the top. I'm just underneath my chin. This is where the air is coming, kind of going in and coming out, and I'm just projecting from just under my chin. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it by taking in the air, which goes all the way down to my belly, and then I project. So I'm doing the same thing now. It's a different sound, different tone, different voice, but the quality of the air coming in, because it's going right the way down, is coming up from my belly, and I'm projecting it. And already you can hear this resonance. You can hear this kind of, it's deeper, isn't it? It's kind of
Yeah. No, that's
stronger.
right. The depth. The
Yeah,
depth.
depth, and all that is from the muscle coming where your belly is, and we can all find that muscle. So if you can do this for me right now, Grant. So put your hands on the side of your hips, just below, just where the fleshy part is, right? I've
Yeah.
got kind of fleshy parts there, right? So love handles, whatever you want to call them.
I
So
got
just
it.
sort of just put your hand. That's, you got it there, Grant. So you just put your hands on there, and then for 5, do this this sound. Shh, 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 shh. So it's a sh sound, yeah. And that sh, and when you do that, you can feel, can't you? You can feel your hands kind of just pushing pushing away, right?
Correct.
When your hands are on the fleshy parts, on the love handles, right? And that's the muscle that's pushing the projection. That's projecting your voice, right? So it's a shh, shh, shh. So if I was to, let's say I was to keep talking and put my hands there on those love handles, I will be able to feel the vibration coming through my belly. So it's basically, always remember this, the quality of the air that comes in right deep down, and you project that out. It doesn't have to hurt. It shouldn't hurt. It's really simple. But the more you do that, the quality of the sound of your voice will improve. The quality of the sound that comes out improves. And you can hear that.
100%. That is great. Great. Thanks for sharing that tip and the great tactic, because how you project yourself is how you're going to be heard and perceived. Because you definitely want, because there's always going to be a language of subtlety that takes place. So you want to enunciate correctly so that you are perceived in understanding of what you're conveying from a communication standpoint. So before we leave, I just wanted to know, how do people get a hold of you, Peter? What's the best way?
Yeah, best way. It's the same way that we kind of bumped into each other's lives, really. LinkedIn, put my name in there, speaker coach, you'll find me. Don't think there are many other Peter Hopwoods that are well, no, there is you know what, there is another Peter Hopwood out there who, and this is as crazy as haven't really got time to tell the story, but essentially, to cut a long story short, I contacted him on LinkedIn one day because I just thought, it'd be cool to find out another Peter Hopwood, the same name as me. He apparently lives not too far away from where I used to live in the UK. And then I was just intrigued to find out more about the Hopwood, my surname, a little bit more about it, because it's not that kind of usual in the UK or on the planet, really. And I said, my grandparents were from this part of London. And then he replies, well, my grandparents were from that part of London. And I said, well, what was the name of your grandmother then and grandfather? And he said, no, you tell me the name of your grandmother and your grandfather. He then went away for 5 minutes or so, and he said, I'm going to be back shortly. Give me 5 or 6 minutes. I think he went and he spoke to his father, and then he came back to me and he said to me, listen, you are my cousin. My father and your father were brothers. Now, the thing is, my brother, our family was quite small. My father and my uncle, his father, they lost. There was arguments in the family, like there are in many families, and they just lost touch, right? And they just kind of separated like that. But the crazy thing is, he called his son Peter, and my dad called his son Peter, and we lived, I don't know, about 10 miles away from each other for years. And it's crazy how I kind of, just by a coincidence, was intrigued to find find somebody with the same name, and he's actually my cousin. I mean, we've connected since, and we've had a couple of phone calls, and he's a cool guy. But really, really interesting how coincidence and things that happen in life, a coincidence. Things happen for a reason.
I think that's serendipity,
yeah.
and it was needed to happen.
Yeah. So when you're looking for Peter Hopwood, you might find my cousin. But if you put in speaker coach, public speaking coach, TEDx, I'm pretty sure you'll find me. So if you do, send out a connection request or maybe a message, just so I know you've listened to the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, if you haven't enjoyed it, still send out a message. Tell us you didn't enjoy it, and that's cool. That's cool as well. And then I won't accept your connection request. But hopefully, if there's anything at all that you think I can help you with, or the teams that you're working with or within your network, reach out, and then let's see, potentially, I don't know how we can collaborate in the future.
Oh, without question. This has been a pleasure, Peter. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your expertise with our audience. We'll definitely look you up, both Peters. now we know your family, but I know the difference without question. And thank you very much for sharing everything that you have. Make sure that you tune in to all the episodes on Follow the Brand at www.5starbdm. That's B for brand, D for development, and for masters.com. Until next time, take care of yourself. Thanks again, Peter. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.